Today we are going to talk about the Scrum framework and try to understand that what are the values, what is that Scrum framework which is published by scrum.org. So let's go into a little bit detail to understand and see a picture of, how does this Scrum framework look like? Scrum framework. If you see this picture, you would observe that how and what Scrum is trying to say. So overall, Scrum framework looks like this. We'll talk the overall picture of the Scrum framework, and all these ceremonies in detail will be talked about in a later video. This is the basically complete framework defined by scrum.org, and it's based on the new Scrum guide published in 2020 by scrum.org. So I'll publish a separate video for those who wants to know the difference. What is the difference between the Scrum Guide, the previous one, and the latest edition? And I will attach the link in the description of this video. So today we'll talk about the foundation of the Scrum framework. So let's see that know what is the Scrum framework all about. The Scrum framework consists of a sprint. So if you see that no sprint, which is basically 2 to 4 weeks, within that sprint, what do we have? So let's try to understand a high level of that. Product goal. So this is something new that that has brought by Sprint Scrum Guide 2020. So we have talked about the product backlog, that there should always be a product backlog which is a living document. We keep on adding, the product owner keeps on adding the stories, epics, features, enablers into the product roadmap, and he keeps on prioritizing that. At the end of it, everybody should know what is the goal of the product. So that is something new which is added by the Scrum Guide, and it is ordered. If you see, then some of the ceremonies, what do we do is that product backlog is available, it's ordered, it contains all the priorities, and it contains the product goal. It is important to understand by the Scrum team that what is the product backlog refinement or the item that we are talking about. The PBIs, product backlog item, what we are talking about. What are those? So for that, we conduct a ceremony called product backlog refinement. So that's one of the ceremony that we conduct, which helps the Scrum team to understand each and every stories in detail. And they can ask questions, they can brainstorm on that, they can provide alternative ideas that know what would be better from the technology side to implement that particular product backlog item. Then we have another ceremony called sprint planning. Sprint planning, in this, we take the product backlog item, put it in the sprint planning, and see that whether it's refined or groomed within the development team, and did the team understand that properly, and then the priorities are being presented, team creates the estimate, and then basically what they do is that they take these items from the product backlog, do the sprint planning, and pulls the item into the sprint backlog. So whatever the items are clear to the team, they pull the item into the sprint backlog and they come up with the sprint goal. So earlier we had only sprint goal, but latest edition product goal is also included as part of the scrum.org latest Scrum guide. Once we know the sprint goal, all these stories are pulled by the team in the sprint backlog, then it basically we talk about the daily scrum. But before we talk about that, we'll have to understand that what is a scrum team. A scrum team consists of product owner, developers, and scrum master. In the earlier version, you would have seen that no, we used to call the scrum guide, we used to call product owner, scrum master, and development team. But in the latest edition, they have merged that and made it a part of scrum team so that there is no segregation of the roles as product owner and the development team and the scrum masters. Everybody work as a team, as a scrum team, to provide output. So that's the basically one of the refinement in the Scrum Guide 2020. So coming back to the daily scrum. So when sprint backlog, all these stories are pulled by the team, they start working in that sprint. So again, we have talked about that sprint is a time box wherein all these ceremonies are happening. So when daily scrums is happening, this is where the work progress or impediments are discussed, brainstormed, resolved, etc. At the end of the sprint, the product increment, if you see that this increment is getting bigger. So the product increment with each sprint gets bigger and it's presented basically before it's presented in the sprint review as per the definition of done. And we have talked about definition of done, and I'll be publishing a detailed video of the definition of done and will be providing the link in the description of this video. So as per the definition of done, the product increment or the stories which are signed up in the sprint backlog are marked as accepted or not. The accepted stories becomes the part of the product increment and presented to all the stakeholders in the sprint review. So once the sprint review is done, then we get the constructive feedback from all these stakeholders. We also talk about the priorities of the upcoming sprint. We also include that feedback which we have collected in the sprint review to see that how we can prioritize that for the upcoming sprint. These are all the high level activities that happens within the sprint review. We'll talk about all the ceremonies in the details, and then later on I'll be publishing the links to these videos as well. But then what happens is before we go back, there is a sprint retrospective. We see that whatever we have done as a part of the sprint, what did we do good? So it's a basically start, stop, continue technique, wherein what did we do good, which we can continue, what we can start new, and where the improvements required. And as part of the sprint retrospective, this brainstorming happens within the Scrum team, and some of the improvements come to the part of the sprint planning. So if there are 5 improvements, then they come here and the sprint planning, everybody decides and prioritize those improvements. If they can take 1, 2, or 3 high priority improvements, that basically goes back in the cycle again. So that's the overall Scrum framework. I'll give you 30 seconds to absorb that. So today, what we are going to do is, today we are, what is our focus to discuss today? This is the ballpark high level Scrum framework that we have talked about. And today we are going to talk about the, the 3 pillars. What are the 3 pillars of the Scrum framework? Before even we go and understand any of the ceremony or how Agile works, it is important to understand that is Agile is standing on 3 pillars, which are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And it is important to understand these pillars. In my later video, I'll be talking about the values also. If you see that all of this, whether they are 3 pillars, transparency, inspection, and adaptation, or all the values, 5 values that I'll be talking in the next video, and the trust. This is the basic foundation of this Scrum framework. So before even we proceed forward and try to understand any of these ceremonies, it is important that we understand the details on which the agile is basically, or the Scrum framework is standing, the foundation of it. So let's try to see that what is the Scrum framework and how does it promote. As you see, I have already provided a reference here that it comes with the reference of scrum.org. So whatever I'm talking, you can find out from the scrum.org. It's available to everyone. Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps teams and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. It's a lightweight framework because it's simple and easy to understand. And this is the framework which is basically based on self-organized team. So self-organized team is a key to success here. The Scrum Master or any of the leaders of the organization should work on making the team self-organized. Scrum suggests to create a self-organized team by removing titles and roles of the development team members. That's the reason majority of the cases you will see that there are no titles as architect, senior developer, junior developer, QA, DevOps, tech lead, and so on and so forth. So Scrum suggests that when you remove the titles, everybody work at the same level, then they generate that respect, and it helps to make the team a self-organized team. And as I have talked about in the previous video, that team is the one who decides and pulls. It's not push. So push versus pull, nobody push work to them. They understand the product goal. They understand and then brainstorm the priorities in the sprint planning and then pulls those items in the sprint backlog and commit to a sprint goal. So self-organized team decides what work needs to be done in order to produce maximum value upfront. So that's basically important to understand that how these team works and how they are trying to generate value for the complex problem. There may be a question if you are attempting some of the Scrum Master certification, that Scrum is a framework. It's a lightweight framework and generate value through adaptive solution for the complex problem. And before now, it's time to understand that when we say it's simple, what do we mean by simple? And what are the activities done by each and every member in the team, and how it is simple to understand. So let's try to see that. Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where a product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. So it is his responsibility to understand the complex problem, basically to make sure that those are the work items are ordered, work items are captured in the product backlog, work items are ordered in the product backlog. That's the first step. Second, the Scrum team turns a selection of the work into an increment of value during the sprint. So, see this part wherein product owner understand that complex problem and turn those into a work items in the product backlog, this part of it. And then Scrum team turns a selection, the basically a selection of work item, which they basically take in this sprint backlog and convert that into a increment of value during the sprint. So at the end of the sprint, the value, the increment in terms of value is produced and presented to everyone. Third point is the Scrum team and its stakeholder inspect the results and adjust for the next sprint. So this is the sprint review wherein the Scrum team and all the stakeholders they inspect the results and inspect the increments and provide constructive feedback. Basically, they try to understand what have been done. So and then what happens? Repeat. This has happened in the one sprint, then repeat the process. That's the reason we say that Scrum is simple. There are questions that there is the Scrum framework is purposefully incomplete. It's not defining all the parts. It is basically rather than providing the detailed instructions, the Scrum guide is providing the relationship and interactions and the ceremonies. And then it's up to the team that know how they want to fill in the details in this Scrum framework. And the Scrum is also built upon the collective intelligence of people. So that the reason there is mainly focus on producing the value upfront for the customer. So customer is in the focus as well as the team who works on the actual product is in focus. So that's the reason it said that Scrum is built upon by the collective intelligence of people using it. And also, Scrum makes visible the relative efficacies of current management environment and the work technique so that improvements can be made. So that's basically the ballpark, the Scrum framework, and why it is simple to understand. Three steps: product owner does this, Scrum team does this, and the Scrum team and all other stakeholders they inspect the results and then we repeat the process. So you would see that most of the cases, if this is understood, then you may face a question like this. I mean, I'm just saying that we have just started discussing about the Scrum framework, and let's see that we are able to what we are able to understand. So knowledge check. What is true about Scrum? Scrum is a framework. Scrum is based on empirical process control theory. Each component of Scrum serves a specific purpose and is essential to Scrum's success or all of the above. It is important, and once our understanding is clear, answering this question would become easier. And let's try to see that what's the answer. All of the above. Because Scrum, as I have discussed about, Scrum is a lightweight framework. Scrum is based on empirical process control theory. Each component of Scrum, whether it's product backlog or sprint planning, wherein team pulls the stories to the sprint backlog, then they produce that increment, inspect that increment during the sprint review along with all the stakeholder. So each component of the Scrum serves a specific purpose and essential for Scrum success. So it is important to understand that how it works and how it adds value. Let's try to explore now. I have talked about those three pillars, which is a foundation of the Scrum, on the basis of which the Scrum is basically Scrum is standing on those three pillars. So let's try to talk about the Scrum theory and three pillars. What is that Scrum theory? They have a theory which is based on some of the foundation principles for the Scrum, and let's try to explore that part of it. Again, the reference from scrum.org. What is Scrum theory? Scrum is founded on empirism and lean thinking. What is empirism? Empirism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. So that's empirism. They believe in empirism and the lean thinking because knowledge comes from experience. And that's one of my answer to somebody asked the question that no, what is velocity and how do we measure the velocity? Comes from experience during initial few sprints. Team is learning, adapting, and the velocity may not that be high. So basically it will take 3 to 4 sprints to average out the velocity because then they when they gain the knowledge, they learn from their experience and then they make decisions on the basis of what is observed. That's empirism. Lean thinking, reduce waste and focus on the essentials. So it's a combination of empirism as well as lean thinking, wherein we'll have to try to think of ways to reduce waste and focus of essentials. I've talked about some of those that part in the 12 principles in my previous videos as well. So it's an iterative incremental approach to optimize predictability and control risk. That's what basically Scrum is. Scrum engages a group of people who collectively have the skills and expertise to do the work and share or acquire such skills as needed. So when we form a Scrum team, then I've talked about that roles should be eliminated. But it's basically until unless you have skills and expertise needed to do the work in this in the team, this cannot be successful. And then it's not only that having these skills, but an eager to share and acquire skills as needed within the team. So there are four formal events wherein basically which comes as a part of these are the three pillars that I was talking about: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Scrum combines four formal events for inspection and adaptation: sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. I have just talked about that at a high level in beginning of this video. These events work because they implement the empirical Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So before even we try to understand those 4 or 5 events that we have, it is important to understand that these events will only work when these pillars are strong. And these pillars are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So let's try to explore what are these pillars and what is the value that they add as a foundation for the Scrum. Transparency. So transparency. So if you see that no, these are the three pillars that no I've talked about, and then Scrum is based on these three pillars, and then I'll be talking about these 5 values in my later video. So today in this video, I'll be talking about these pillars in details. The emergent process and the work must be visible to those performing the work as well as those receiving the work. Transparency is a key to success. 100% transparency is key to success in this Scrum framework. Single source of truth. You would be seeing that my reference about the single source of truth, which is basically capture and provide 100% transparency with the help of some of the agile tools. So that either, and it's basically as we have talked about this, work must be visible to those who are performing the work, which is basically a Scrum team, the developers, product owner, Scrum master, and as well as to those who are receiving the work. At the end of the sprint, during the sprint review, all the stakeholders, they are inspecting the increment produced by the team. So 100% transparency across all the layers. Artifacts that have low transparency can lead to decisions that diminish value and increase risk. Why Scrum is successful is that there is 100% transparency throughout the process. And how transparency is adding the value, that once it is transparent to everybody, they can understand what is being worked upon. They can understand that if it is a high quality product which is being produced, or we can prioritize better, and they can also help us to reduce risk. That is where people believe that 100% transparency can lead to caution. But I will answer that part as a part of those five values, that if those five values are inculcated across the enterprise, which is commitment, courage, openness, focus, and respect, then those questions can be avoided. So teams should be trained to provide 100% transparency. Transparency also enables inspection. Inspection without transparency is misleading and wasteful. Once you have 100% transparent about what is being done, how stories were being pulled in the sprint backlog, estimates, what are the impediments faced, how we have resolved it, whether we were able to meet the sprint goal. It is okay if we are not able to meet the sprint goal. We tried our best. This is what we did. These are the impediment phase. These were the things we did to resolve those impediments, so on and so forth. So it is important to understand that what happens this. And let's explore some of the examples of transparency in sprint ceremonies and how it add value. Because I'm being asked most of the time that you talk about transparency, but can you link that transparency to some of these sprint ceremonies? So here is the linkage. Product owner always keeps product backlog prioritized and transparent to Scrum team. So that's one of the example of being transparent. That product backlog, it is available and is being transparent to complete Scrum team. All the impediments, small or big, technical or functional, are logged in Agile tool and are being transparent to everyone until resolved. We have been I've been asked questions about my theory of reducing the status reports and making the transparency do that part. So basically, anything that you're doing, if somebody wants to know that what are these product backlog items, what is your product backlog, how are you prioritizing it, what is the product goal, what is the end goal that you're looking at from the product perspective, and somebody wants to know from the sprint perspective, what is your sprint goal, what are the activities you have taken, what are the impediments you're facing day to day, how are you resolving the impediment. So again, going back to my reference of single source of truth, everything is available at that single source of truth, and anybody at any point of time can go and check that information. What is happening? What are the impediment phase? How are they getting resolved? The key to success is that make sure that all these details are present in your single source of truth, which can be any agile tool. And of course, if there are questions about the roles of the product owner, what is the product backlog, why it should be kept prioritized, what is an impediment, so I'll be talking about all of this in detail in my upcoming videos, and will provide link in the description of this video. Basically, I just wanted to focus on the transparency part of it. So these are the two examples of the transparency. And then let's talk about transparency with reference to all the ceremonies that we have. For example, during sprint planning, the PBI, you will see a reference of the PBI in my upcoming videos as well, which is a product backlog item, which is a part of the product backlog. So any work item in the product backlog is called PBI, the product backlog item. So PBI is discussed and estimated, and this process of estimation is transparent to everyone in the Scrum team, and everyone know why PBI will take that much time. There are questions in the past about pointing fingers that this estimate is large, and this should take less and all that stuff. So Scrum eliminates all those process, because during the sprint planning, the complete Scrum team is a part of the sprint planning, and this process of estimating any PBI, whether it's story, feature, epic, enabler, tasks, is transparent to everyone. Team is discussing and brainstorming about why do they think so that no, that should be the estimate. They are talking about what all work items to be included in that particular PBI to get that completed. So once the process is transparent, the question should not be asked. So that's another example of being transparent. Scrum team comes up with sprint goal, as an output of sprint planning, which is shared with everyone and is transparent to everyone. Anybody wants to know what are you planning to do in the upcoming sprint? Sprint goal is being transparent, is published in the source of truth, basically that agile tool. So that's another example of the transparency wherein, and you would see why I'm talking about all these details of the transparency and what are the artifacts, what are the events, what are the some of the actions done by the team to keep everything transparent. Because at the end of this video, you would see that no, why I keep on saying that no, you can eliminate or reduce the need of the status report by being transparent like this. Anybody has question about the product backlog item, anybody has questions about the estimate, anybody had questions about the product goal, sprint goal, impediments, priorities, everything is present in your source of truth agile tool. So is there a need of more status report other than that? And if you have questions again about the sprint planning, what is the process of estimation, what is that sprint goal, I'll be talking about that. I'm just introducing that right now, and I'll be talking details about that in my upcoming videos, and we'll share the link here. Important to understand that the source of truth, we are transparent and publishing and keeping our source of truth up to date so that we can we can see that know how we are eliminating the need of the status report by keeping 100% transparency across all the ceremonies. So we have talked about that in sprint planning, what kind of transparency can we bring. Let's see that no, what do we do in the DSU, which is daily stand up. During DSU, scrum teams keep their work progress and remaining work transparent in agile tool to all the stakeholders. So that is where, and of course as a part of that, the burn down chart which provides the high level visibility of remaining work and speculate where team is heading to. Most of the time status reports are being asked with a worry whether we'll reach the goal, whether we'll meet the time commitment, whether we'll be able to do that. So that's another thing, that by being transparent in the DSU we discuss about the work progress of each and every item, taken up by the team, each and every development team member. If they are if they are facing any impediments, that are also getting discussed and captured, and what is the remaining work in their bucket. And then burn down chart, of course it is a chart which is provides, and I'll be talking about details of a burn down chart in another video. I'm just introducing this term. A burn down chart which provides the high level visibility of the remaining work. It's not only that, but the burn down charts tells you the predictability to everyone that how we are moving, whether we'll be able to reach to the goal. By looking at the burn down chart, anybody who is worrying about meeting the timelines or the sprint goal at the end of the sprint, what would happen? They can predict the progress of the sprint using that burn down chart. So that's where basically it is important, and it adds a lot of value when we are transparent in some kind of these ceremonies. Let's try to that's part of the DSU, wherein what are we doing as a part of the being transparent and how it adds value. So let's try to explore some other ceremonies like sprint refinement and grooming, and see that no, if it makes sense for us to understand the part of the transparency, how transparency adding a value in the sprint refinement or the grooming. Of course, again, details of this will be captured and link will be produced, but capability of a product owner to write clear and transparent PBIs, the product backlog item, which can be epic, which can be feature, which can be stories and enablers. So that is how the product owner can be transparent to the complete Scrum team. That what are the epics captured, what are any of the PBIs captured in the product backlog, and he write clear and transparent PBIs so that it become clear to the team, they can understand it at any point of time. They can refer that no, what does my product backlog look like. It's a living document. The product owner, while talking to their stakeholders, is capturing these PBIs in the product backlog, but it's 100% transparent and is available to the complete Scrum team. So that's basically another aspect of transparency that we bring in. Other thing is that during the refinement of the grooming, the Scrum team, they engage and they basically brainstorm on that PBI item or the stories. And then during the brainstorming, if there are questions, those are answered. If there are alternative options which are produced by the development team or by the Scrum team, then product owner is actively listening to it. And if there are basically technology solution which can the team can provide that, oh, I understood this story, But this is if we do it this way, it would look better, or it would be faster, it would be more secured. So product owner is actively listening to all those suggestions and is ready to include that or the changes to the PBI items. So that's another example of being transparent, that we are 100% transparent and we are talking more in details of that. Sprint demo. What are some of the examples of the transparency in this sprint demo? Scrum team is transparent about completed work, blocked work, as well as spillover work. So if there is any worry, there is no hiding, because throughout the process of the Scrum, I've talked about DSU, I've talked about sprint planning, now I'm talking about sprint review. That what was the work that we have completed, what was the work that was blocked, and what is the spillover work that we were not able to complete and that will spill over to the next sprint. Scrum team also explains impediment faced and how they have resolved it. And if there are still unresolved impediment, they are presented to everyone. And the fact that these impediments are presented to everyone, why? Why in the sprint review? Because it may happen that somebody in the sprint review may help the team to resolve those unresolved impediment, because there are a lot of stakeholders who are attending a sprint review. So yes, these are the impediment we faced, this is how we have resolved it, these are the impediment we are still not able to resolve it, and because of which some of the work is still blocked and some of the work is spilling over. So people can help. Product backlog priorities for upcoming sprint are discussed and being transparent to everyone. Another example of being transparent, that not only in the sprint review, I'll talk about the details of the sprint review in another video, but in the sprint review, it's not only presenting your product increment and getting the constructive feedback. We also talk about, after getting the feedback, that how does the product backlog for the upcoming sprint look like? What are the priorities? What will work on that? So that as a team together, along with all the stakeholders, we are being transparent to them that these are the potential product backlog items that team may pick up in the sprint planning, and at the end of the sprint you can visualize that, know what is that sprint feedback that or sprint demo that you will be planning to see. So that's some part of the transparency in the sprint review. And of course, we talk about all the detailed reasons of blockers, spillovers are discussed in the sprint demo so that everyone knows about what happened. I've talked about unresolved impediments also. We can seek help from anyone who is willing to help. So that is what the example of being transparent. And again, now visualize this. If until now, if you are being transparent in your sprint planning, if you're transparent in your DSUs, if you're transparent in showing the burn down chart to show predictability, whether you'll be able to reach the sprint goal, how much can get spillover, and during this sprint review, you're talking about what got completed. So it's nothing hidden. 100% transparency given to all these stakeholders. And let's try to see that in the last ceremony, sprint retrospective. What is an example of the sprint retrospective as far as transparency is concerned? Scrum team discuss about good practices as well as improvement items, and keep this discussion transparent to everyone by taking improvement item in the sprint backlog for upcoming sprint, even if it needs self improvement for skill, behavior, and attitude. So most of the time I'm being asked this question, that how is sprint retrospective being transparent to everyone, because it's only Scrum team, combination of product owner, Scrum master, and the and all the developers who attend this ceremony. They talk about what can be improved, and even if it is about the skills, that no, we need to upgrade these skills in order to be better in the next sprint. All of this is being discussed and is being transparent within sprint retrospective. To answer that question, how is being transparent to the other stakeholders, these improvement items are taken. If you would have observed that, when I was showing you the Scrum framework, this these improvement items are taken as a feedback or an input to the sprint planning. And when by taking some of the high priority improvements in the sprint backlog, we show our sprint backlog transparent to everyone, that other than doing the PBI items or the actual value work, we have taken these two improvements also, which we are planning to improve and planning to be better in this sprint. That is how we become transparent, as far as sprint retrospective is there. I'll be talking about all of this in detail. I mean, all these ceremonies in detail, wherein you'll see what is retrospective all about and all that stuff. But I'm just making the base here so that you see that how these ceremonies are linked and how it is providing transparency. So far we have talked about the first pillar, transparency, which is the key to success. Majority of your Scrum success or elimination of or reduction of some of the status reporting depends upon transparency. So that's the key to success. So let's talk about the another pillar, which is inspection, and how it is helping us. Inspection. The Scrum artifacts and the progress toward agreed goals must be inspected frequently and diligently to detect potential undesirable variances or problems. Inspection enables adaptation. Inspection without adaptation, sorry, it was adaptation. Inspection enables adaptation. Inspection without adaptation is considered pointless. So we know there are a lot of questions being asked again about the inspection. Is it that micromanagement? Is it that no, we want to inspect everything? Inspection should not be linked with micromanagement. The inspection is that at regular intervals we are inspecting the work done. One of the example can be that in the sprint review we are inspecting the work increment getting produced, and it's not only we, the end stakeholders is the customers or the other stakeholders are also involved to review that or to inspect that increment, to see that no, if there are any suggestions, constructive feedback, if we see variances, if we see problems, so that the earlier we know, the better, so that we can control those variances, we can control those problems. To help with inspection, Scrum provide cadence in form of its 5 events. All the 5 events that we have talked about, the ceremonies that we have talked about, we'll talk about that in a while. But this pillar replaces the need of formal status report as described in the waterfall methodology. So what is status report? It's kind of inspection, right? That you are planning to see that what is getting done. So you want to inspect. But I'll be talking about the details of when I'll be saying that all the 5 events that how we are doing inspection and adaptation. So we'll talk about that. So but let's cover the adaptation part first and understand what is adaptation. Adaptation. If any aspects of a process deviate outside acceptable limits, or if the resulting product is unacceptable, the process being applied or materials being produced must be adjusted. The adjustment must be made as soon as possible to minimize further deviation. That's adaptation. Adaptation. Wherein, if we see that we are deviating from the acceptable limits, we see that at the end of the sprint, that the product increment, which is basically produced, is not acceptable. It's okay. It's just 2 weeks of the work that is being done. So we can take steps to make sure that we are adjusting ourselves. We are adapting to the situation, and we are trying to adjust to produce value in place of just pointing fingers. Adaptations becomes more difficult when people involved are not empowered or self-managing. They should not be questioned. Their confidence, their trust, their respect should not be questioned there. And you will be seeing that why I keep on talking about the self-organizing team. So people involved should be empowered and should be self-managing so that they can learn from that why it went outside the acceptable limits or what happened that the product was not acceptable. They have got the constructed feedback. So that key is that self-empowered, self-managing, and self-organizing team. A Scrum team is expected to adapt the moment it learns anything new through inspection. So see that how inspection and adaptation is linked. As soon as we learn something from inspection, that during the inspection, oh, we found this deviation, we found this is not working right. As soon as possible that we find out that this is where it's deviating from the acceptable limit, we try to adjust. And that is where some of you are familiar with the Six Sigma concept, wherein we talk about the acceptable limits. If the process is going outside the acceptable limits, then we try to adjust. That's where it bring in that lean thinking mindset also. That do that inspection as soon as possible, and as soon as you find something is deviating, take steps to improve that. Take steps to organize the value around that and make it a good product. So let's try to see that no how both inspect because inspection and adaptation both works together. So in my latest slide, I'll be talking about that how inspection and adaptation work together and are applicable to all these ceremonies. During sprint planning, inspect and adapt event to discuss product backlog priorities and the sprint goal and understand why it is required. So during sprint planning, the Scrum team they inspect the product backlog, the priorities of the product backlog, and see whether it makes sense. And then through by doing that inspection, they adapt and see that no, what could be the sprint goal which can maximize value at the end of the sprint. That's one of the example of the so if you are asked a question that no inspection and adaptation, what all ceremony it is linked to. This is where I am trying to cover that how all these ceremonies or what all ceremonies the inspection and adaptation is linked. So we have talked about sprint planning. Let's see the implementation of inspection and adaptation in the DSU, how it is linked there. During DSU, inspect and adapt event to discuss about the impediments and what can be done to resolve the impediments. We are status report. We want to know the risks. What are the risks? Which is produced, let's say, weekly or monthly. But in Scrum, what we are doing, daily stand up. And I will talking about the details of the daily stand up later. But in the daily stand up, when the team is meeting daily, they're talking about the work progress and they are also talking about the impediments or the risks, so-called risks, which are being faced. How are we trying to resolve it? And what can be done to resolve those impediments? Unlike waterfall, when we face an impediment and we have a risk, we pass it on to project manager to put that in the status report and show that to leadership and get a solution to us. So it's like passing the ball, wherein in the Scrum team is responsible to discuss the impediment and find out ways that know how can it be resolved. So now you will start seeing value, right? That just by putting an impediment as a risk in the status report and passing the ball up to the leadership and ask them to help the team to resolve that risk, because once the risk is put in the status report, it becomes somebody else baby, rather than keeping that as an impediment and discussing on a daily basis within the team is still owning that impediment and the ways to resolve it. So let's try to now see that how inspect and adapt works in the sprint review. Inspect and adapt event to understand the output of the sprint, that is the product increment or the working software. Inspect the increment and get the constructive feedback. It's not that we are trying to identify defects in the system when we are saying inspect the increment. Inspect the increment, whether it makes sense, whether it is meeting the needs of my end customers and the stakeholders. So showing that work increment or the working software sprint by sprint, I am validating that needs of the end customers are being met. And if they see some deviation, if they see that no, it can be made better, or if they see that no, there was a gap in capturing the requirement versus creating the working software, we get the constructive feedback from them and then we start working on them. Please note constructive feedback. Unlike approval comments, pointing fingers, giving defects, it's not only that. Constructive feedback is wherein criticism is avoided. We are talking to stakeholders, we are trying to show them that know how we have done our best to produce the working increment or the working software, and how we are trying to take it forward. We are open to your feedback, and we take the feedback, we plan it again in the sprint planning, and we work on that, and we show you the value in the upcoming sprint. Let's leave the inspection and adaptation a reference to the sprint grooming or the sprint refinement. Inspect and adapt event to understand what can be improved and how it can be improved to make the team and product better. So we are talking and we are inspecting what happened in this sprint. What have we done wrong? What can we improve? What have we done good, which we can continue? So this is an inspection and adaptation. And on the basis of the discussion points, the inspection team come up with the improvement item. That's adaptation. that no, okay, we have done this wrong, or we can be better like this. So let's work on some improvement item. These are the improvement items that will sign up for the upcoming sprints. That's an example of inspection and adaptation for the sprint grooming. So this is my reference that how all these three pillars becomes a foundation for the Scrum. And before even we try to learn Scrum, until unless we are we are keen to observe the pattern around these three pillars, that these three pillars become the foundation, and this could be inculcated in us that throughout the process we should take care of these three pillars. So let's try to do a knowledge check and see that no whether we have understood that correctly or not. Question: what all ceremonies events has inspect and adapt? Sprint planning, sprint refinement, DSU, daily stand up, sprint review, sprint retrospective, or all of the above. I've given reference in my videos, so let's see that what was the output. All of the above, because you would have seen that I've explained that how inspect and adapt, how we are basically taking the inspect and adapt throughout all these ceremonies. So that's basically the overall gist of what I was planning to explain. So we have talked about the Scrum framework at a high level. We have talked about Scrum theory, empiricism, and lean thinking, and then we have talked about the three pillars and how they are linked to all these ceremonies. That's it. Thank you for today. I'll be talking about the Scrum values, the 5 Scrum values in my upcoming video. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.